The first thing Caleb Wilder noticed was not the hunger, though it clung to her like a second shadow. It was the care with which she ate. Behind the general store, where spoiled crates were left for hogs and crows, the young woman knelt in the dust and brushed the grit from a bruised apple before lifting it to her mouth. She chewed slowly, deliberately, as if manners were a habit she refused to let starvation steal. The town moved on the other side of the wall, boots on planks, laughter, the jangle of coins, but none of it reached her. She was 22, though hunger had thinned the softness from her years, and her name, if anyone bothered to remember it, was Eliza Graybird. Caleb rode past once. He told himself to keep going. Men who lingered learned to mind their own business in places like this, where mercy was treated as a flaw. He had learned that early, after his mother died, and the town watched him learn silence instead of offering help. So he kept his eyes forward, reins loose, the day warm and ordinary as any other. Then he saw her reflection in the shop window as he passed, small and folded in on itself, and something in him pulled tight. He slowed, then stopped, then turned his horse with a sigh that felt older than his 30 years. Eliza sensed him before she saw him. The air shifted. A presence settled near her that did not carry laughter or scorn. She did not look up at once. She had learned how quickly kindness could sour into cruelty if acknowledged too eagerly. The apple tasted of rot and sugar. Her stomach twisted, grateful and ashamed all at once. When she finally lifted her eyes, the man was already kneeling, his hat set aside, his gaze careful, as though he were approaching a skittish animal instead of a woman. Caleb set a small parcel on the ground between them and stepped back. Inside was a biscuit wrapped in cloth, still warm enough to steam faintly in the sun. He said nothing. The silence stretched, thick with the weight of watching windows and remembered refusals. Eliza's hands trembled as she reached for the cloth. She waited for the catch, the price, the demand, the look that would make her feel smaller. But none came. She ate, and the simple act felt like crossing a line she could never uncross. "Get up, lady," he said at last, his voice low, as if the words were meant only for the space between them. "You're coming home with me." The sentence landed without force. It did not ask. It did not explain. Eliza studied his face for the lie she had learned to expect. There was none, only a steadiness that made room for her to decide. Around them, the town had noticed. A woman paused in a doorway. A man leaned against a post, curiosity sharpening into judgment. Eliza felt the familiar heat of shame rise, the instinct to disappear before it could burn. She pushed herself to her feet, brushed her hands on her skirt, and followed him. They walked. Caleb matched his stride to hers, not hurrying, not lagging, as though this were the most natural arrangement in the world. Words drifted toward them, soft, sharp, curious, but he did not answer any of it. Eliza kept her eyes on the dust. She had learned how to make herself small, how to pass through places without leaving a mark. What unsettled her was the way he did not let her do it alone. His cabin sat at the edge of town, where the land loosened its grip on fences. Inside, it smelled of wood and soap. He poured water first, then set a bowl of stew on the table and turned away, busying himself with a chair that did not need mending. Eliza ate until warmth returned to her hands. She noticed the way he moved, deliberate, unshowy, as if care were something he practiced in private. When she finished, he brought a blanket and pointed to the narrow bed without comment. Night came quietly. Eliza lay awake, listening to the sounds of a life not hers, the creak of boards, the low murmur of a man speaking to a horse outside, the hush of wind through grass. For the first time in weeks, her stomach did not ache. The relief frightened her more than the hunger had. She slept anyway. Morning brought voices. Eliza woke to them before she saw the light, the words carrying through the thin walls. Men from town, concerned, they said. Careful, they advised. She rose and stepped outside before anyone could tell her to go. Caleb turned, surprise flickering across his face, then something like resolve settling in its place. "You don't owe me leaving," he said, loud enough for the others to hear. Eliza felt the ground steady beneath her feet. The men shifted, uncertain, as though a rule had been broken they could not name. Caleb spoke again, not defending, not accusing, simply stating what would be. Work, a place, time. The offer was plain. The cost, unspoken. The men left. The day went on. Eliza stayed. And though neither of them said it then, both understood that something irrevocable had been set in motion. A quiet defiance that would not end with the turning of a season. Like, comment, or tell us where you're watching from.